Welcome back. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV. The first segment of the program today would be dedicated to the children, and Egypt celebrates the Children's Day annually on the 20th of November. Universal Children was first proclaimed by the United Kingdom in 1954. It was established to encourage all the countries to institute a day, firstly, to promote mutual exchange and understanding among the children, and secondly, to initiate the action to benefit and promote the welfare of the world's children. That is observed to promote the objectives of the outlined in the Charter and for the welfare of the children. On the 20th of November in 1959, the United Nations adopted the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. In Egypt, the children constitute 40% of the population, with 38 million children, and Egypt has made many achievements in this field of the children's rights. And we are honored to be having with us today Dr. Nabil Ged, the professor at the Faculty of Education and the educational consultant. Thank you very much for being with us today, Dr. Nabil.
Most welcome. It's my pleasure.
Well,
Right.
yes, good afternoon, Doctor. First of all, would you tell us about the importance of celebrating a Children's Day and having an international day for children?
Right. Before I start my words, let me again extend my full appreciation and greetings to the heroes of the army, the intelligence in particular, for what we heard yesterday, and for the policemen and all the Egyptian honest, true citizens. I'm just talking about a normal Egyptian citizen. Child is the father of man, and that's what I read in one of the poems of a British poet called William Wordsworth. He said, child is the father of man, and I could wish that my day be bound each to each by natural piety. He's a British poet, by the way, and he's known to be a classic, a romantic poet. And children are the future generation, our hope and our prosperity that will be achieved through them. The child of today is the young man of the coming years, and then the grown up and the older person or the elderly person in the future. They are the ones who plan for their countries, and I was so happy a couple of weeks ago when there was the International Youth Conference, when I saw an African young boy of about 10, and he had some achievements, and the African guy who introduced him asked him a very nice question: what would you like to be in the future? And he answered her saying, I would like to be someone like Einstein, which is really very ambitious of this. The Egyptian child, let us concentrate now about our country, is one of the most genius, if ever be the top of the genius, as it is said always. I don't know why after joining the school, something happens and the line comes down. There is something wrong that should be tackled and treated in a good way.
Is it the educational system, Doctor?
Could be. It could be the education system which needs, and it's on the process going on nowadays to be developed and progressing to cope with the international trends of education. And if we give due care to this child, he is the one of the future. And I consider that life without children is like a sunless garden when the flowers are dead. And if we don't give this due care, as I said, to the child of today, it will be fruitless. But of course, there are so many good measures taken. We can't forget the Supreme Council for Mother Care and Child Care, headed, I think, by Dr. Maya Morsi. and they are not giving the due care to the children themselves, but to the mothers, because maternity is an essential factor, because they are the ones who shoulder the responsibility to bring up these children.
Yes, doctor, you also mentioned education. What about technology? Nowadays, as we can see that the children under the age of 5 and maybe 3 sometimes are using technology, and laptops and iPads and iPhones and all those things.
Yeah, this is the future.
How does this affect the children nowadays?
This is actually the way for modernizing education, coping with the technology that's going on. I had the chance before to talk about this strategy of technology, that with a touch of a button, the child can know lots of information without being fed in from his parents or the teachers at school. So it's education. It is the major factor for developing our country and developing the child since he is still young. A young child, as I mentioned, is the future young man. He is the leader of the future, and the more the children read and tackle with the new technology through the iPad or laptops or whatever, the more they are learned and become thinkers. They have their ideas. I heard someone saying a few days ago on TV that in the past it's used to say that one day older than you can teach you, but now maybe one day younger than me can teach me.
Yes.
So it's reversed. It's reversed now.
Now, doctor, I'd like to return back to your first answer when you were talking about maternity is important. Now, that would lead us to the education of women and ladies. And unfortunately, in some areas and rural areas in Egypt, still the females are pulled out of school. So how can we really enhance what you mentioned when we were talking at the beginning of the episode about the importance of motherhood and maternity itself?
Right. Mother is the developer of the generations. And without her, I think all the efforts will be in vain. And I'm really touched and moved when I hear about poor people, illiterate people who are not aware of I can't say the most up-to-date technical strategies.
Sometimes even the basics.
The basics, yeah. So let us look at the mother in the rural areas. They are not as educated and well-cultured as those on the urban areas. However, it's the task now and the responsibility of mass media, which reaches everywhere, that we have to educate and bring up these mothers who are the people who push forward their children. They can teach them to learn ethics, values, principles, and such things actually will shape their future life, because no country can live with its yesterday only. It lives in the present time, working hard for the future time and to achieve the goals and to live in peace and harmony with each other. The mother is the important person in the whole family, and she is, they used to say that a daughter in a family is the family flower, but I can say that the mother is the main family flower. Without her, nothing could be achieved.
Yes, what about the basic skills that the nowadays children should be taught in schools and at home to be facing the world in the future?
The basic thing in my point of view, is to learn how to respect the others, how to be in good relation with the Creator, the Lord. And religion can form their path of life throughout their life. If they have the seeds at the beginning, and when they are still young, they will develop and they will be mature enough to differentiate between what's good and what's bad. Evil, I'm afraid, is spreading nowadays through so many different things and items that are illegally coming through our culture. We have to purify and filter what's going on for these children not to be affected.
Yes.
Of course, there would be an effect. However, we can minimize this effect and influence to the least and make them promising future children.
Yes.
Doctor, it's amazing how technology now is affecting our lives, and it's even affecting education. That the Minister of Education has launched a new initiative to introduce tabs and smart boards to to the schools. And I do a kids show, and in it we visit some of the public schools, and it's interesting, some of the public schools now are having the e-boards or the smart boards. So now, how can we utilize e-learning for the benefit of Egypt and to develop the educational system? And what's the government's strategy? How far is it intending to go with the e-learning process in the schools?
All that is fair and well.
Mm-hmm.
However, the one who executes such strategies is the trainer or the teacher, the instructor. We need to have a very good, well-trained teacher, convinced with the new ideas, not to be a defeatist or a success enemy, and apply what he or she is trained on to be applied in his class, and to be a leader of the group. The teacher now is no more giving or feeding in everything through what he says, but he's just a guide for these young learners, and it needs some encouragement, some pushing forward with rewarding methods, and in such a way they can develop and progress. It's the task of the trainer to be convinced first. If not, I'm afraid he or she has to be gone away from and let the specialized people, the ones who are good believers in the new technology and the new the technology of education, to be applied in the correct path.
Yes, Dr. Nabil, you previously said that children nowadays do not need someone to be feeding them information rather than from the teachers or the parents at home. So what about the best age for the children to be using technology and to be being fed information on daily basis?
As early as possible.
As early as possible.
Yes, if it is less than 5, it would be much better. And I think the use of technology will be deeply rooted in such young learners who we consider them, they are babies. However, they are thinkers. And by the way, they have, the young children have very good memory. I remember the other day I told my granddaughter something, and she reminded me after it, although I myself forgot it. But she said, Granddad, you told me so and so, and she's asking me to fulfill my promise. Actually, these young learners or the children, even under the age of 5, have no trouble, no worries whatsoever, as we are the older people. They have blank
like a sponge.
page or sheet of that can be ready to be recording and receiving and producing at the same time.
Well, Doctor, returning back to the idea of e-learning, you mentioned the professor or the teacher himself. Well, that would require retraining our staff. And I recall talking about that with you before the episode. Sure. And you had your own opinion about that. How can we train our professors and teachers to the new methods and new teaching approach, in a sense?
Right. The program nowadays named the TOT, Trainer of Trainers, is a valid strategy to be followed. And we shouldn't be misers spending on such programs, because the feedback out of these trainers will be very soon, and the others will imitate them. If they see that there are fruitful results coming out of the trainees through these trainers, the others will imitate them. And there is something called the peer learning and the peer teaching as well. So teaching and learning at the same time, the process now called the teaching learning process, not as it was before, the teaching process only. There is a sort of interaction between the trainer and the trainee, the professor or the teacher, the instructor, and the learner, who is the direct beneficiary of what's going on. And we should not stop a young learner for making a mistake. No, through mistakes we learn. I always say to my students, it's not a mistake to commit a mistake. The biggest mistake is to repeat the same mistake. And I think we can have them in the frame and guide them as much as possible according to the pedagogical principles and educational concepts that can work. And we can also benefit from those who preceded us outside Egypt or in different countries, and maybe we invite some trainers from abroad to come and have sessions of in-service training sessions that can help a lot push forward all these trainers, and has its results on the learners and the children we have now.
Yes, but don't you think that parents and teachers at school are a bit afraid that children can be too reliant on technology nowadays?
To some extent at the beginning of the process, that can be absolutely true. I do agree with you.
Can we continue this after a break?
Sure.
Definitely. So now we're going to a quick break, but we'll be back for more, and we'll continue our talk with Dr. Nabil again.
Thank you.